Welcome back, guys. New video, new Unreal Engine layout. I've just moved a few things around here just to be a little more economical with my space. I've got my modes tab up on the right now, and I've changed the toolbar here to little small icons just to save some space, you know, because otherwise they just take up room. If you would like to use the small icons, you can go to Edit, then Editor Preferences, and it's this checkbox here, second one down, Use Small Toolbar Icons. Shout out to Constantine on Discord for letting me in on that little trick. It's very, very handy. So yeah, cheers, man. Alright, so today we're going to be making a Ragdoll Physics system similar to like how you would see in, say, Counter-Strike or Call of Duty when your player is killed. They sort of tumble around and ragdoll around the map. So we're going to make something like that and play a little bit around with some settings that will be helpful for when you start to get your characters working in multiplayer. So I've got my first-person game mode here set, and I've got my first-person character open and ready to go. Now the only changes that I made here is to... here we go, the play sound at location, I've just lowered the volume, and over at the line trace, I've just set a debug type to full duration and a draw time of 1.0. This will just help us out a little bit later on in the video. So if we hit play just now, we can see it got our ray tracing going on, our line tracing, and the sound isn't so, isn't so intense. So with that set, we can get ready to make our ragdoll. So let's go to the viewport here. What we want to do is find this mesh inherited, the inherited mesh component here, which is a skeletal mesh. And first, let's talk about the animation starter pack, which we'll use in this character. So you can find this on the Epic Marketplace. It's a free download, and it just contains a whole bunch of animations for the default UE4 mannequin that you can use in your projects for anything that you need, really. It comes with its own mannequin, its own animation blueprint, and we'll be using that in our first-person character. So here we are with our skeletal mesh. Bring this down. Make sure that we pick the one. There it is, the one where it says in the path there that it is in the animation starter pack. Otherwise, the animation blueprint won't work. And our UE4 ASP Hero TPP and in blueprint is the one for the animation starter pack. And as you can see, obviously the mesh here isn't in the right spot remotely. So let's set our rotation properly. That's -90 in Z and -97 in the Z location. In fact, we'll make that a little bit better. Let's go -95. And the other thing that we want is a camera, like a ragdoll camera that we can use once the ragdoll effect is kicked in. So we'll make ourselves a spring arm. No, it doesn't need to be inherited by the mesh. We'll drop that onto the capture component, and then a camera, just like that. And we'll call this one our ragdoll camera, just for convenience. And where's our spring arm? Oh, there we go. So we've got to rotate our spring arm like that. Whoa, didn't mean to roll. And let's bring it up and rotate it a bit. Point it at about pelvis height. Might rotate it up a little bit more. There we go, and we should be good going forward. Although we have a couple of settings to change here on our mannequin mesh here. For one, if we just go straight and hit play, you can see that. Oh, right, of course. Before we go any further, get our ragdoll camera here and make sure that it's not the one, it's not set to auto activate. So we'll deactivate that when we hit play. So we're back in our first person view camera, but you can see our mesh here is in the way of our view. So let's grab that mesh and let's find a setting called Owner No See. And we'll check that box so it doesn't appear to us, the player. And then we'll also find a setting called Hidden Shadow. So even when it's hidden, it's still going to cast a shadow so that we can see our own shadow in the world if we need to. Which will help us going forward by trying to match up, the positions of things without having to actually see the mesh. So when we hit play, there we go. So we've got our shadow, but we can't see the mesh in our way at all. So this is perfect. This should be all we need to get started. Oh, although we have to enable our physics on our mesh. So let's scroll down here. So here's this checkbox for simulate physics. We don't want that checked by default, otherwise it simply won't work, but we do need to enable collision. So these are all good as default deactivated, but here in collision presets, we're currently set to character mesh. We want to bring down this drop down and set our collision to ragdoll. That'll make it function properly once the functionality is built out. You can experiment with other preset collision modes, I guess, but you'll get some very unpredictable results, let's just say that. So, back in the event graph, I think we're about ready to get started. And the way that I've sorted this out, as long as we're just prototyping, we'll just do it at a key press. So we're going to use the G key. Here it is, keyboard event G, and a flip-flop, which is just a toggle. So every time this node fires, it's going to alternate from A to B, and it's going to do this every time we hit G. So when we hit G for the first time, we're going to ragdoll, and for the second time, we're going to reset back to our default first-person view, and then for the third time, we're going to go back to A, and we'll ragdoll once more. Simple enough. Let's get started here with a simple demonstration. So we'll get our player controller, and we'll have to get our HUD, get HUD, and from this, let's get set show HUD, our set show HUD node, which will duplicate and hook up to our get HUD node just like that, and plug one into A and one into B. And for the B value, we want to set show HUD to true and leave it default false in our A. So this will just show you what we're doing with the flip-flop here. So here in the play and editor mode, if we hit G, you can see it's going to hide the HUD, and if we hit G again, it's going to bring it back. So the flip-flop is just alternating between two outputs here. I hope that's simple enough and straightforward to understand. And with that, we can proceed. So the second thing we'll do is to activate and deactivate the cameras as we need them. So let's grab our ragdoll camera and our first-person camera, and we'll need an activate node and also a deactivate node. And I'll just disconnect this deactivate node here and duplicate both of these, because we have to do this for both of these outputs. We have to alternate. So let's just hook these all up to our blueprint tree here, and plug in our first-person camera into this target of the activate on our bottom tree, and to the top deactivate node at our A result. And likewise for our ragdoll camera, it has to deactivate on the B, but activate on the A. I hope that makes sense. In fact, we can see this along with our HUD when we go to test. So we're going to be swapping around cameras with each press of G. Works well so far. The next thing is to make the actual ragdoll functionality work. And for that, let's grab our mesh, and we'll also need a set all bodies simulate physics. Where is it? Set all bodies below simulate physics. Well, it's here with the mesh thing built in. I'll just get rid of that, whatever. So we'll duplicate this because we have to simulate physics on our mesh, but then return it to normal once we hit the flip-flop toggle. So this mesh goes into both these targets, and we'll also need to set a bone name here, otherwise it won't know what to do. So let's right-click. We'll make a node called make literal name. This just allows us to define the name exactly as we intend it, and use that as the bone name. In this case, we're going to use pelvis, which is the name of a bone in our skeleton. In fact, we'll even have a look at it here. So let's open up our UE4 mannequin skeleton. So the pelvis is the one right above the root. The root bone is down here at the origin point. We want the pelvis, which is at the center of the model, and every bone below that is, well, it's literally every other bone in the skeleton, which is perfect because we want all of the bodies below our pelvis node. So let's plug in that into our bone name, and we can go forward from there. So we'll need to set our blend weight, obviously, so we have a bit more control over the physics that we're simulating. So let's set all bodies blend weight. Set all bodies below physics blend weight. It's mesh again. Let's use this node over here. And the bone name obviously has to be hooked up once more. And we'll set our blend weight to 1. This should make our ragdolling a little bit more natural. Feel a little bit more, a bit less floppy, a bit less weightless. Now, with our physics alternating like this, we can change some of those owner no see values that we set in our mesh at the start. Because once the ragdolling has occurred, we want to be able to see the actual mesh and see it ragdoll and tumble about. So let's we'll get another mesh node. Why not? And out of this one, let's find the set owner no see node, and we'll duplicate it for 1 and check it in the bottom. And we can hook these up to our tree as we go. So just like that. And we'll duplicate both of these because we want to do the opposite with our first person mesh and the gun. So we'll drag both of those into our graph here and plug in both of them into each one of these owner no see nodes. Make sure the top one is set to true and the bottom one is set to false, and we can connect these up to our tree as well. Let's have a little bit more space here, I think. And we should be just about ready to test, actually. So let's compile and save, and we'll go back to our editor here, hit play, and then let's tap G. Okay, so the ragdolling is working fine, but as you can see, the camera isn't attached to our player at all, and things aren't returning to normal once we hit G again. So there's a couple of bugs here that we have to fix, which is totally fine. We can do that. Oh, well, for one, our bottom owner no C node here has to be set to false, so that the gun and the first person mesh come back once we're back in our first person view. And we'll also have to reattach our mesh here to our capsule component. So let's right click and we'll get an attach to component node. We'll drag in our capsule component to use as the parent, and our mesh here will be the, oh, I think we need a, okay, so we'll attach to, we'll need an actually tailored attach to component node. Oh, why can't I put that in the target? What's going on here? Okay, so let's right click, we'll start over. So it's attached to component. We'll get the capsule component. Let's delete this one that I spawned in. And holding control and click this target here, we'll put that into parent and then drag this target over to the mesh, and they should hook up just fine. We tick the world simulated bodies. We'll need our literal name as the socket name, and we'll attach this to the tree. In fact, I'll make myself a little bit more space here because we have to adjust the relative location and rotation of our mesh. So if we set relative location and rotation, plug this into the tree as well. This back up to our other nodes here. So our location, if we go back to the viewport, find our mesh, you can see up here it's -95 in the Z position of our location and -90 in the rotation. This will put it exactly back here where we want it to be so that everything matches up just right. So that's -95 in the Z location and -90 in the Z rotation. And that should set us up just fine. So with that all done and everything's connected, these are all set up just right, we can hit compile and then save, make sure that things are going okay, then we'll hit play. And there we go. Although when we're not ragdolling, the camera is still not attached, but when we hit G, everything's back to normal and we have our mesh attached back to our parent, just like that. Alright, so the last thing we'll do is set up our ragdoll camera, so that's actually attached to the to our mesh while we're in the ragdoll mode. So let's right click and we'll get our event tick, and then what do? We have to set the world location of our capsule to our mesh. Alright, so we'll get our mesh, we'll get socket location. The socket name is going to be pelvis. That's the bone we've been using. Bones work as they work the same as sockets, or maybe sockets work the same as bones. You can just use them as the same thing. So out of this return value, we want a vector, add vector, and we'll add that 97 value back to our mesh here, as it's oh, it was 95, wasn't it? Yeah, 95. Using old numbers. And then out of this add, well, actually, let's just get our capsule component, duplicate. Let's move this out here, get some space so we're not confused. Oh, you can duplicate nodes with Control W, by the way, if no one had caught up on that. And then out of this capsule component, let's get a set world location. Oh, that's the wrong one. I just want the location. Set world location. There it is. Plug this into the tick. Oh, wait, not yet. But we will put the location in there. First off, though, over here at our other tree, we need a new variable so that we know when the character is in the ragdoll mode. So we'll make a new boolean, call it isRagdoll. File, drag this in, set. We'll duplicate it once and hook them up. So remember, in our A tree, that's this top line that we come from. This is when we have our ragdoll mode going. So we'll set that. We'll set isRagdoll to true in our top row here. And then back at our event tick, we hold Control and drag in our isRagdoll. We get a get. Hold in B and click for a branch. We'll put the isRagdoll as the condition. Hook up the event tick to our branch. And so when isRagdoll is true, we want to be matching the location of our capsule component to the location of our mesh. I hope that makes sense. It's a fairly simple little piece of calculation here, but now when we hit play, I'll hit G, and I can't move the camera around, but when I hit G again, and there we go. So see, the camera's going to move with the mesh as it tumbles about the world. So that's pretty cool. So that pretty much sorts out our player here. We can do some funky stuff. If I jump and hit G, we get a bit of height going. It's pretty cool. I like this. Let's do one other thing. We'll set up a Ragdoll Dummy so that we can shoot it and have a bit of a crash test sort of simulation going, just for fun. Just for fun. So to do that, we'll save this, make sure everything's good like that. I'll find my blueprints folder. Let's right click and make a new class. This will be an actor. We'll call it Ragdoll Dummy _BP, and we'll open that up. Put it here in the main window so that we can see it. We'll add our skeletal mesh, and we'll also add a capsule collision, which will make us a child of the skeletal mesh. And our skeletal mesh, just like before, is going to be the same mannequin. Although, actually, no, we'll use the one from the third person template. I should say, okay. So if you don't have the third person, the third person assets, you can go to Add New in your content browser, Add Feature or Content Pack, and you can add any one of these templates from the Unreal Engine project. So just grab the third person assets, just like that, and you'll have access to the mannequin here, and we'll also get the third person and in blueprint. So we get this nice idle animation. So our capsule component's a bit small. We'll size this up a bit and position this nicely, just so that we have something that can detect the hit. In fact, let's put our skeletal mesh as the default root. Okay, very cool. Now we can, well, what have I done here? Blueprints folder, there it is. So let's just hit play and make sure everything's still... Oh, my first person mesh has gone sideways. Wonder why that happened. Oh, okay, we could fix that just by, we'll grab the mesh in our pawn here. In fact, why don't I just delete this? Oh, I can't delete the component, I suppose. But we'll grab the actor, just delete that, and I'll use a player start. Player start. There we go. Hit play. Much better. Perfect. A little bit close. In fact, we could probably lose this network player start. We're not using that. Let's just double check. Yep. Okay. So that's corrected everything. Don't know about that. Sorry about that. Technical difficulty. And here's our dummy. And we'll build out the blueprint here so that we can make this thing tumble around once we shoot it. So over here in our dummy BP, we'll go to the event graph, and we can delete these three guys because we're not going to use them. What we will use, if we get our capsule component here, we want an on component hit, like that. Should be all we need. Put it up here at the start, and then set simulate physics of our skeleton mesh. We'll also need the hit result here, so if we come off the hit of our on-component hit and break that hit result, we'll be able to do things. We get all this data from the hit, and this should happen from our first-person character gunfire, that line trace that we were playing with earlier. Oh, and we'll also have to check this simulate box here for set simulate physics. So we'll use an add impulse node, add impulse to our skeletal mesh, and a set physics linear velocity also to the skeletal mesh. But we'll just delete that, hook this guy up, connect these two, and we want our impact normal to be the linear velocity. And our impulse here, we can make basically anything, because it's just a line trace. We can set this to, I don't know, let's say we'll make ourselves a float. We'll call it impact velocity, and we'll set this to a float. Just compile that so that we can put in our default. I don't know. We'll make it, I don't know, 200. See what that does. Probably not much. So we'll get that, plug it in here. It'll convert our float into a vector. Not quite sure what's gonna happen here, but we'll plug in our hit bone name out of this hit result here into each of these pink boxes here, and we'll have a look. Let's see if this does anything. So nothing yet. Oh, we might have to change the mesh collision here. We need some ragdoll going on. No, yeah, it's set to no collision, so it's not going to hit anything. And we also need to tick this box. Simulation generates hit events. So that should help us along a little bit. Oh, still nothing. So what's going on here? Okay, here's what we're going to do. So we'll go to first person character. We'll find here's our line trace, here's our deal with impact. What we're going to do is get this hit actor and we will activate. And this should get us a root component and an activate node, which we'll just connect up to our chain here, just like that. So we'll compile, head back over to our ragdoll blueprint, we'll get our skeletal mesh, and where are we? Down here, we want on component activated. We'll hit plus. We'll also turn off, if it's not already, yeah, auto activate. We want auto activate to be set to false. Connect this up to our string here, and this should get us somewhere. We won't need, or maybe we will. Maybe we will need. I don't know. Let's see. And we'll go skeletal mesh, and up here at collision. So we've got simulation generates hit events on. Our collision presets though are currently set to ragdoll. We'll change this to custom, and we will tick the box here for visibility. So our visibility channel, the reason that we check this for block is because our line trace here is tracing in the channel of visibility. So that's going to ensure that the line trace is going to connect with our mesh. So we'll save that, hit play. Hey, there we go. Now look who's getting tossed around. Look at that. Perfect. So that's our Ragdoll dummy working in all of his glory. We don't even need the capsule, I don't think. Let's compile that. Yeah. And just so that we know that it's working properly, I'm going to move this guy just a bit to the side, because otherwise his head is right in the middle of my crosshair when I spawn here. There we go. And it's even getting the direction of our impulse here, just inheriting it from the first person character, because we see here that I've connected the hit bone name to the add impulse at location. Make sure you do that, and you'll be getting your impulse and the location, and doing that properly. And then back here in our dummy here, I can probably delete all this. Let's see what changes there. I don't think anything will. Yeah, because we're not getting the actual hit. We don't need any of this sort of thing. So we can delete all these nodes and just make sure that when we activate it, we're simulating the physics. Yeah, get some. Alright, so that's a little bit of a bumpy road there, the dummy working, but I'm glad we got there in the end. This is how to make Ragdoll Physics in Unreal Engine. And all you do from here to make this work for your characters, like to incorporate death and that such, we would need this top row here handles the ragdolling of the character. So you can just take that, separate that out, and use it sort of come into here from where your player's health hits 0, really. And that final shot will be the impulse here. It'll be the one that connects this impulse location from your line trace from your player from the gunshot. So that should give you a thing or two. It should start you off with Ragdoll Physics and how to make Ragdoll Physics in Unreal Engine. I hope this helps you guys, and I'm keen to make the next video, so I'll see you then. Bye.